I am the full-time English faculty tutor, and we are going to be talking about effective note-taking. Are you seeing the effective note-taking? Good,
Yes.
good, excellent. Um, an important part of being a student is effective note-taking. However, although teachers expect that students are taking notes and students usually write things down in class, less often when they're reading the textbooks, although that is just as important, oftentimes the student has no familiarity with how to take notes or is following a method that is ineffective for them. This presentation is designed to help you figure out how to take effective notes for your class and how to find a note-taking strategy that works best for you. The three effective methods for note-taking are the mind map method, the outline method, and the Cornell method. All of these are good, really equally so, but different strategies work better for different people and depending on the subject. Let's look at them a bit more in depth and try each of them out. The mind map method is great for visual learners and helps process information. Actually, it does a lot of things. It facilitates the development of supermemory. It uses your whole brain. It makes learning fun. It shows links between related points. And it juices up heavy study material. Now, the mind map method can get really complex because it is all about what and how a person constructs ideas in their mind and what they find important. It can look really crazy to anyone other than the note taker after the first glance, like this. This just looks like an explosion of words here. You'll notice that in the center we have the main idea. Why do people participate in open culture? And then things that have been discussed in the class are sort of just mapped around in the area that they made sense to the note taker. The big points seem to be values, fun, empowerment, efficiency. And then underneath those different things that the teachers mentioned, constant feedback loops, no need to reinvent the wheel, several brains are better than one, or under values, sharing, community, transparency, freedom. You can even see a couple of drawings that are in here too. You've got this sort of little uh, uh, pyramid, which says can't afford the paywall, necessity, and a little bunny. I'm not quite sure what that bunny represents, but that it's not my mind map, so I don't have to. However, the mind map can be as simple as this. Uh, this was obviously from a science class. Solar system. Part of the solar system are planets and asteroids related to planets or moons. And for some reason, the person who took this one put spaceships. I'm not quite sure. Um, maybe that means I always think of that as UFOs, but I guess it could mean our spaceships. It could mean NASA circling the planet. Anyway, how do you draw them? What you do when you draw a mind map is you start with the main idea in the center of the page, and then you create subheadings of various kinds. And then off of the subheadings, you could branch with keywords or concepts that help to illustrate the subheading to you, or maybe a drawing that works well for you. For example, let's take this reading here. Reasons your class may be driving you up a wall. There are multiple reasons your class may be causing you a lot of stress. You may feel like the subject doesn't make any sense. You may feel like there are too many assignments for the semester with too much work to do. And you may feel that the grading scale is too tough and you cannot possibly do everything you are asked to do, like follow correct MLA formatting, use only approved text from the library database, both define and analyze the material thoroughly while sticking to the word count, and avoiding any spelling or punctuation errors. The result of all of this may be that you want to have a breakdown in the middle of class and scream at your teacher at the top of your lungs. Okay, there's the reading. Here is a potential mind map for that. There we have the main idea. Reasons your class may be driving you up the wall. We have the subheadings, too many assignments. Grading is too tough. Subject doesn't make any sense. Cannot possibly do everything you are asked. And I put some key concepts and terms next to that one. Some of the things that were, oops, let me go back, that were talked about there. Oops. Uh, MLA formatting, the library database, define and analyze material, word count, spelling, and grammar check. I didn't do a drawing for this because I wanted to print this so you could see it more clearly. You'll realize in a second my handwriting is somewhat difficult to decipher, but I wanted that to be clear to you. What I'd like to do now is present a second reading, a follow-up to the reading from beforehand, and have us together create a mind map for it. So the second. Why you should not let anxiety overwhelm you during the semester. Despite the great anxieties that come along with being a student, particularly in a class that maybe doesn't play into your strengths, you really shouldn't break down in class and start screaming at your professor at the top of your lungs. Remember, although they may seem like they are creating all these requirements just to torture you, this is someone who can really help when you are feeling lost and confused. You might actually learn a lot from them. And if you can keep it together, even as the stress piles up over the semester, you may find that you not only learned how to do many things you couldn't do before, but that you've grown and matured as a person. Also, exploring class might cause you to be invited to leave the school for a certain amount of time. This is called being suspended. Extended craziness may cause you to be invited to leave the school permanently. This is called being expelled. You want the happiest experience you can have as a student, not the worst. Try to keep calm and reassure yourself that you can do it, and look for a positive spin. As you are feeling the pressure build, ask your teacher for some tips on how to approach all the requirements. Make an appointment with the tutoring center at the Academic Success Center. Our phone number is 713-718-8184. You're going to make it through the semester okay. Reassure yourself of this, especially at midterms and finals. Now, that's the reading. I'm going to bring up a Q camera, and let's just start with, and is my notepad being seen clearly?
Yes, it is.
Good. Thank you. Let's start with someone suggest what is the main idea here we're talking about? What should we put here in the center of our mind map?
You may unmute yourself to talk.
Well, one thing to do is we can look at, let's look at that reading again. And we're going to look at why you do not let anxiety overwhelm you during the semester. So you probably want a title that begins like, you probably want that to be in the center. And we don't have to do it exactly. We can say, why not go crazy? It was a G for some reason. That's my own crazy. During the semester. And then we make that the center of our mind map. And then we want to branch out with those subheadings. Going back to the essay or the reading, as I should say. What are some of these subheadings that we can create there? Anybody want to suggest some things we could put in the subheading from what's in the reading?
Look for a positive spin.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a terrific one. That's a really terrific one. Positive spin. Very good. Anyone else notice anything in that reading that we might utilize? We could look at the fact that these requirements aren't there to hurt you. This is meant to help you and help you learn. And we could make that a subheading. And we could even branch off with a subheading from that one. And as you can see here, how bad my handwriting is. This is why I didn't want the first example to be in my own handwriting. We could also talk about some of the negative outcomes if you actually lost it. And they could include suspension, or expulsion. Draw a little school. And there's the kid having to run away from it because he got expelled. Boo. See, yeah. The mind map is particularly good for people who have a more artistic mindset, and for whom visual learning is more effective than necessarily words, which is why drawings or whatever, short phrases and this sort of connecting one idea to the other can be very helpful for that sort of person. As I'm not a particularly great artist, I'm going to now move away from the mind map method and talk about the next method that we have at our disposal, which is the outline method. Now, this is a traditional note-taking method, but don't let it guide you into thinking it is old-fashioned. This is a very effective way to organize information, and it also aids in memory retention. The way you use this method is to use Roman numerals to title a major section, and Arabic numbers to do, actually, I somewhat just redid this, so this isn't quite right. And Roman numerals for the major sections, letters for the subject, and lowercase, and the numbers for the subheadings. And we can go further down than that if we want to, and we'll see an example of that in a second. I'm going to show you a reading, and then I'm going to give you an example of how this is done. Why cats are better than dogs. There are several reasons a person might think cats are better than dogs. For one thing, cats don't take up very much space in an apartment or bedroom. Cats are generally smaller sized. A golden retriever will take up more space in your bed than a kitten. Cats are also more affordable. The adoption costs for cats are much lower. In fact, in the peak season for litters of kittens, shelters may waive their fees entirely or do a 2 kittens for the price of 1 deal. When it comes to the toys you buy for your pet, cats also come out as more economical. Dogs tend to chew their toys. Thus, to keep the toys from falling apart, toy manufacturers have to make dog toys more durable, and the materials necessary for this make dog toys more expensive. Dogs, of course, need more exercise. A dog must be walked, whereas a cat can be allowed to loaf and sleep as it wants. In this day and age, when most adults are working, that can lead to having to pay someone to walk your dog. And dog walkers can cost as much as $15 to $20 for a 20-minute walk. You want to save money and save your legs a stretch. Think of getting a cat who will stretch out beside you on the couch. All right, that's our reading. And here's an example of the outline method for that. Roman numeral 1. Cats don't take up much space. And then our subheading, letter 1, they are smaller. And then a detail about that, golden retriever will take up more space in your kit. And then I did Roman numeral 2 for the general idea of more affordable. And then my subheadings, letter A, adoption costs are much less. That actually should be a 1. I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to fix that. 1, shelters often waive their fees for kittens entirely or do a 2-for-1 deal. B, dog toys tend to be more expensive. 1, dogs tend to chew their toys. B, thus the toys have to be 2, the toys have to be made more durable, and dog owners pay more for them. And C, dogs need to be walked, whereas cats can take care of themselves. And one example of that is dog walkers can cost as much as $15 to $20 for a 20-minute walk. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how I broke this down and how I chose to make my notes the way that I did it. I'm going to go back a screen. You'll notice that I broke it down by paragraph. So in my first paragraph, I talked about size. For one thing, cats don't take up very much space in an apartment or kitchen. Cats are generally smaller sized. A golden retriever will take up more space in your bed than a kitchen. And I let that be.
Chris, your sound cut off.
I thought I was the only one. It's because he's talking about cats. If you were talking about dogs, dogs rule.
Did it somehow change where your sound was coming from? Diana, do you have a suggestion?
I do not.
Do you have a question?
I was going to say we can't hear you.
Oh. Yeah, he's trying to figure out the sound.
I just saw his mouth moving and I didn't want him to continue to be teaching, thinking we're carrying it on.
Oh, he's going to log back in and see if that fixes it. If you look in the chat, I've added a tutoring flyer that talks about where you can go to get tutoring because Chris is a tutor. And our Eagle chats and webinars, today we have financial aid and financial coaching coming up if you want to learn about their department. Tomorrow we have tutoring and upswing. And then, of course, we have another test taking strategies recipe for success. And so we have a lot of stuff going on. And so we're just adding some stuff. Hey, Chris.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Technology.
Technology. We are so happy for it. So let me let's go back to here we go. This is where we were. And by the way, I love the person who said if we were talking about dogs instead of cats, it would go better, because that's actually the second half of the reading. So so what I was saying was that I had broken this outline down into the way I chose what to make my Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2 was based on the paragraphs. So pay attention to the paragraphing in the next reading, and try to make a little outline while you're going along listening to this, and then I'm going to ask people to give suggestions for writing an outline for this second reading. Why?
Chris, before you go on, we have somebody with their hand up.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes.
Diana, do you have a question?
No, I was just wanting to make sure he knew we couldn't hear.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Why dogs are better than cats. Dogs are much simpler to train than cats. Dogs can learn to obey pretty easily, and in fact, they tend to love being trained and having tasks to perform. A cat that obeys is an oxymoron. Furthermore, taking care of a dog when it needs to be taken out is much easier and less unappealing than occasionally cleaning out a cat's litter box. You have to find a permanent place for a litter box, and they always smell. And of course, you are the one who will have to clean it occasionally. It isn't just the occasional cleanup. Cats can track the litter all over the house. Dogs don't need litter boxes, and they can be trained to do their business a few times a day. Cats are often unsocial. Sometimes you can get them to play with a piece of string or a toy, but a lot of times they don't really want to be bothered. But dogs love to play. They get very excited playing fetch or tug of war with a toy, and they love to be involved with you. The difference in social quality between the 2 points, but between the two also points to another positive aspect of dogs. Your dog wants to protect you, and even the smallest dog will want to guard you against strangers. Your cat is as likely to scoot out the door when someone they don't know comes along. This is related to a question of loyalty. Your dog wants to understand you. He or she will cock their head to understand what you are saying, and if you are sad, they will try to make you feel better. Your cat is not as likely to be social. It may just as well nap as give you attention. Thus, if you want loyalty, protection, friendship, and ease, a dog may be the better pet for you. All right, so I would like to try again to, I'm going to turn on the Hue camera and see if we can write an outline for this together. For some reason, I think switching to the Hue camera had something to do with the sound going off, so I'm hoping that doesn't happen again when I veer back and forth between the two images. But we can start with our heading, why dogs are better than cats. Now, our Roman numeral 1, our first main topic. Let's go back to that reading and look at it again. So what might we choose for our first Roman numeral? What might be the first general topic we can talk about?
Dogs are easier to train.
Absolutely, right, absolutely right. So one, dogs are easier to train. And we can even put the subheading down here. Cats can't be trained. And then for our Roman numeral 2, someone else, what might be our Roman numeral 2? Just look by the paragraph. Our second paragraph is on easier
Taking care of a
to
dog.
take. Yeah. And so we can go with come on. Dogs easier to take care of. And then our subheadings might be dogs only need to be taken out once a day or once or twice a day. Probably one time a day isn't fair to your dog. Whereas cats need a litter box. And then we might add to that the little details that litter boxes need to be cleaned. And the cat can track litter all over the house. That never happened to me with my cat, but any number of times when I've given this presentation, one of the students will say, "Oh, that happened to me, and it was a giant mess." So it is a reality. Um, but this is basically the way you do the outline method, and we don't have to go through the whole reading for it. But your main points are Roman numerals. Your specific examples are A and B, and then details relating to a specific example become the Arabic 1 and 2 again. There is a final method of note taking that I want to point out to you that is somewhat a continuation of the outline method that we've been talking about. So I'm going to show you a full outline that I wrote for this second reading just to prepare you for it. But here I did a full outline. Dogs learn to obey pretty easily, love being trained and having tasks performed. Cats do not like to be trained. Easier to do their business. You only have to walk a dog a couple of times. You know, they can be trained to do it once or twice a day. They don't need litter boxes. Cats need litter boxes. Blah, blah, blah. We see it all. But our final method is called the Cornell method. It's a bit more involved, involves a little bit more setup. But the great thing about the Cornell method is that it can help you to memorize the information in your notes, and it is particularly effective for exams. As with that first example of the mind map, here is a very extensive and elaborate version of the Cornell method with a lot of questions to the side, a lot of important things circled and everything. Just wanted to show you a really detailed one to see how complicated it can get. But again, it can be very simple. Basically, you were taking notes like you always did, except that you are drawing a line a little bit off of center, or you could even just use with a regular notepad the red margin as an area to write main ideas and key questions next to your notes, and then leave a space at the bottom of the page to summarize your notes on that page. Let me show you an example of that with the essay that we just looked at. The dogs are simpler to train than cats. Notice I've put in the margin there specific question tags. Which species responds better to training? What about the problems of their needing to go to the bathroom? What about which animal offers more safety? Which one offers a stronger connection? Now, it might seem at first to you like, well, why are you wasting your time with this? Why not just the notes, the outline the way you did before? And the reason this is effective is because it somewhat turns your notes into a form of flashcards. It can be, you can end up at the end of the semester, with a notebook filled with notes from your class, and you're preparing to take a test or your final exam or what have you. And okay, you've got these notes, but what do you do with them? How do you commit the idea in your notes to your memory? And by having these key questions written to the side, you can then cover up the page, you can cover up the actual notes, look at the questions and quiz yourself. And instead of immediately moving your hands away or whatever paper you put over the actual notes, the outline to see the answer, maybe look down at the bottom and look at the summary and try on the basis of the summary to answer your question before you look. And so therefore, your notes become a method of test preparation for you. I should say here that even though in this case, I simply put down questions, you might also put things that help to jog your memory and remind you of something. If you remember, a loyalty of a dog you once had, or a wonderful cat you had, but had really, strong attitude. You might put a little note there in the margin, reminding yourself of that as a way to spark you on the idea of loyalty and the difference in attitudes between the way cats and dogs generally behave. I can't look at, dogs offer more protection. If I were doing notes for this, I probably wouldn't just put the question, which animal provides more safety. But I can remember our dog when we were growing up. Anytime a stranger came to the door, he'd just rush up to that door and bark, 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 bark. He was the sweetest dog, but you'd think he was an attack dog or something from the way he'd start making noises when a stranger came up. Whereas, our cat was just too busy sunning herself in the window to be bothered that someone was around, unless they were coming into the room, in which she scooted out because she didn't want to be bothered by it. But so it can just be ideas that come into your head related to this that help you remember what the reading said, what the reading was about. It doesn't even have to confirm it. Maybe you don't, maybe you don't really agree with this, and you want to put a note, a comment next to your note saying, this, funny, because in my experience, my dog was kind of a coward, and my cat, was very territorial, and that cat would have protected me against anything. So it doesn't actually have to be, you don't have to be brainwashed into thinking just the way your readings or your lecture is telling you to think. It's just a way to spark your memory so that when you're going over these notes again and you cover up the outline and try to remember what's there, those ideas and questions help you to keep it in mind. Oops. But remember, with all these note-taking methods, there isn't one method that's good for all circumstances. So play with them a little bit. Try different ones in different classes. Try the outline method one day in a class. Try the mind map making method on another day. Practice with the Cornell method. See how it's working for you and how one of these methods best in a particular class helps you to retain the information. Hopefully they will increase your ability to take notes and remember the information. And I'm wishing you good luck in all of that. And that is our presentation. Does anybody have any questions they would like to ask? I guess I did everything perfectly then.
Ooh, thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks
Terry, did
everybody
you have
for
a
listening. I
question?
appreciate it.
Oh, no, not at all. Just wanted to say thanks for your time.
Oh, thank you so
Yeah.
much. I appreciate that.
Definitely. I've posted quite a few things in the chat. One, for attending today, you get a free Welcome Week shirt. There's a form where you just fill it out and we'll mail you the Welcome Week shirt. And then also a survey where if you fill that out, you'll be put in to see with everybody else who's attended event, and we'll be drawing at the end of the month for some power banks that will mail out to you. And of course, I've put in a tutoring flyer, our events coming up, a bingo tomorrow night where you can win gift cards. We have caricatures coming up on Friday. Tomorrow, you want to know more about tutoring. We do have a tutoring session tomorrow where you can learn all about tutoring and upswing and how you can work with tutoring, whether it's virtual or in person. And so make sure to check out all these upcoming events. And we're so excited for y'all to come to our first recipes for success this semester. We have a series of them, and we look forward to seeing you at future events. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
I thank you.